Hello there. Good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. Thank you so much thank you so much to everyone for joining us on Snowflake Discover. We have had an incredible session just a couple of minutes back. We concluded one with Natalie and Christian, who is our SVP of product. Hope you had the chance to see him talk, ask questions, and what have you. And now I'd like to take you all on the journey of Discover, where we are going to cover lots and lots of topics. So with no further ado, let me quickly share my screen and walk you through some of the topics that we are going to be covering in the last installment of Discover this year. We are going to be back next year as well, but for now, this is where we are going to put a very good conclusion on top of Discover. So we are going to talk a lot about Snowpark. We are going to talk machine learning, AI, but overall, we expect you to get a very good hang of Snowflake as a platform. So we'll start off with some very basic stuff, ingesting data, just getting yourself familiarized with the Snowflake platform, the Snowsight UI, and then we'll move into the likes of data engineering, machine learning. We'll also talk about the hottest topic on the market right now, which is Gen AI. So we'll talk about LLMs and such. So make sure that you are here with us today and tomorrow. That's where we are doing Discover. Just so you know, just some housekeeping items. This is a live event. It's absolutely free, of course. So if you feel that you have your friends and colleagues who'd like to join this event, so invite them. It's absolutely free, of course. Extend this invite and maybe create a watch party of sorts. We highly encourage everyone to ask as many questions as you can. We have an expert panel at hand who would love to answer all of your questions. So be it any basic question or a really complex or complicated question, just go ahead, ask it, and we'll make sure that we answer those questions for you. And if you haven't already, or if you missed the session that we just concluded with Christian and Natalie, and if you haven't seen the Snowday announcement, Snowday is our product announcement, feature announcements day, where we announce a lot of features that have just come up on the platform. So make sure that you watch this video, watch Christian, walk you through all of the exciting announcements that we have made on the platform. I'll leave this QR code on for a couple of seconds. We'll also share the link with all of you in the chat window so that you have all of the materials ready to go with you. And lastly, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. You can reach out to me. I'm Farhan Chaudhary. I am the evangelist for Snowflake in India. And I have now the pleasure of inviting Pavan Mal from our sales engineering team, who is going to walk us through something really interesting, rather, which is all about just getting the Snowflake basics right. We are also going to cover topics around ingesting data, just getting yourself familiarized with the platform. It's really a zero to Snowflake session. We have Pavan here. Pavan is the best at what he does, so I'll leave it to him, and the floor is all yours, Pavan.
Thanks, Farhan. Farhan, can you just confirm if you can hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Perfect. Okay, so let me just share my screen. Great. I guess you can you just confirm again, Farhan, if you can see my screen? Okay, perfect. So hello, everyone. Thanks for actually staying on for this session. So, I mean, basically in this session, we are going to cover the basics of Snowflake. I understand we have a wide group of people here, and there are many who are experts talking about a lot of advanced topics in Snowflake. And then there are many who are kind of still asking some of the basic questions. So we wanted everybody to be on the same page so that the subsequent session, you can get the full benefit of, basically the sessions, right, and staying on. I would still suggest people who are experts to kind of stay on this session because you might get something out of it. Worst case, it might be just be a refresher if you're not using Snowflake on a day in, day out basis, right? So I'll just move a bit forward. So in this session, we have actually divided into two parts. I'll be covering some basic, topics on Snowflake, why it's very, very different. I think this was one of the questions in the previous keynote session. And also talk about a bit of architecture. So probably half of the session I'll be kind of spending on these kind of things. And then remaining half, I'll actually kind of introduce you to Snowflake user interface, how you can create a database, create schemas, create roles, right? Basically, how you can actually kind of load data from S3, for example. So I'll cover some of the basic topics on the Snowflake part as well, by doing a demo as well, right? So in the second half of this session. So I'll be probably spending about 50 minutes doing both of these. Feel free to ask questions. We have a lot of people actually kind of helping and answering those questions on the chat. So basically, one of the key questions, right? Why do we need something like Snowflake, and why it's completely, a different thing altogether, right? We have about 8,500 plus customers, right, who are using Snowflake day in, day out. And the reason why they love Snowflake is because of the scalability, performance, right, reliability of the platform, and the ease of use, which Christian highlighted actually in the previous session. These are some of the 7 pillars, right, on which this platform is based. If you're loading any data into Snowflake, right, so you can load all kind of data into Snowflake. There is one single engine which actually works on that. So you don't really have to create copies of the data, right, and have different engines kind of doing different kind of processing, right, on those. So Snowflake is a platform where you put in data into this single platform, and there is one single engine which is kind of performing all these operations. So this itself kind of reduces a lot of complexity, which you typically see in some of those traditional architectures, right, where you're copying over data for different kind of operations and different kind of workloads. It's a completely governed platform. So anything, any data which you're loading into this platform, right, it's already encrypted by default. You have world-class governance capabilities, right, like dynamic data masking, encryption, obviously, PII tagging, and all those different capabilities, which is inbuilt in the platform. So you don't really have to kind of get any other solution, external solution, to solve those problems. So it's already there, right? You can just utilize it. It's a globally connected platform. So many of these organizations, right, the 8,500 plus customers I was talking about, they are onto different clouds, they are into different regions, right? And because Snowflake has a feature which we call a Snow Grid, which allows us to kind of share data and have access to the data from across different clouds, cross cloud and cross regions, they can enable a lot of these data sharing, for example, within their own org or external to their organization, right? So this is one of the very key benefits of actually kind of using Snowflake as a platform. And this is something which you get by default when you load data into Snowflake. It's a self-managing platform. So what it means is, like, whenever you are actually, you don't really have to do any installation, right? You don't really have to do any upgrades, patching. All that is managed by Snowflake on its own. Frankly, many of our customers see the benefit of not even they don't really have to, when they're migrating from any other external tools, technologies, they don't really have to do any sort of query optimization, because all that is kind of handled by Snowflake itself, right? So we try to give that seamless experience to the user where they can just kind of create a login here, and I'll show you, how easy it is, right? And you can just start working with it without worrying about the infra and how do you manage the computes and clusters and all those things, right? It's programmable. For example, you can use any kind of language, not just SQL, but you can actually write Java, Python, Scala, right? Different languages you can actually utilize. And again, as I said, it's a single engine which is kind of working on all this, where you can do all the transformations, right? Apart from using just SQL. And then the last piece, which is very important, and Christian also highlighted in his one thing which he would actually kind of like to leave, right, this audience with, is marketplace. So marketplace, Snowflake kind of innovated this whole space. We have a lot of providers. We have thousands of data sets here, and you can use it in 2 manners, right? One, you can actually use this data to enrich your data. So you have your own first-party data, and you can access data from the marketplace and enrich that data. Do analysis or data science activities on top of it, or you can actually monetize your own data, right? And you can bring on your data and applications, right, on the Snowflake platform and monetize it on this platform, right? So this is based on these. These are some of the key differentiators also, I would like to say, where Snowflake is very, very mature and provides a lot of benefits to customers who are actually using Snowflake. So as I already kind of talked about this, it's not just a data platform, right? It's combination of platform and the content. And the content is where I was talking about the marketplace, where there are a lot of data providers are present, they are sharing their data, they are sharing applications, right? You can utilize the whole network of obviously different customers and providers who are sharing data on the data cloud. Moving on, again, I mean, just to re-emphasize this, single platform where you put in your unstructured, structured, semi-structured data in any kind of different latencies, right? You can have any kind of data patterns. It could be data warehouse, it could be data lake, it could be data mesh. It depends on your own maturity of your journey from the data front, right? You can actually utilize any of these data patterns on Snowflake. The platform is capable to actually kind of handle and work along with you, right, on your journey. Once you bring in data into Snowflake platform, you just have to worry about your outcomes. You don't really have to worry about stitching different tools, technologies, different languages, right? You don't really have to worry about all those different complexities, managing infra. It's a single platform. You bring in your data and you can actually generate insights, predictions, and you can monetize your data using this platform, right? So you spend more time on actually your outcomes rather than actually kind of managing the platform, deciding what is the right tool, what is the right technology, what is the right compute infrastructure I should be using for this particular use case. So this is very, very important and key for Snowflake. Again, I mean, Snowflake architecture is kind of into 4 layers. If you see, I mean, we were the first one to kind of bring in this on the cloud, where we kind of separated the storage from compute. So if you see, I mean, the core part, which you see in the center, right? Let me just use the marker a bit. So this part is the storage, where you bring in your data from any external sources and systems. And then the second layer is the compute. I will actually go into detail of each of these one by one. And the third layer is the cloud services, which is the brain of Snowflake. And this is where Snowflake's whole self-managed kind of features come into play, right? So things like zero copy cloning and time travel, and for example, the optimization, the query optimization, which we do on your behalf, right? Whole metadata management and everything actually kind of falls under this layer. And the fourth layer is Snowgrid, which is like our connectivity across cloud and across regions, right? So I will go into one by one. I mean, obviously, probably I'll spend like 10 more minutes, and then I'll move to the demo and start kind of showing things. So first one, optimized storage. So when you bring in data into Snowflake, it's already compressed in a very optimal fashion, right? So you can expect about 50% plus compression, right? And it can go up to like 5 times and 6 times. On top of that, or any data which you're bringing in, it's already managed. So for example, if you're storing data on a typical cloud storage, you have to actually handle the security and the governance part of it. In Snowflake, when you're bringing in data, it's already kind of encrypted. We kind of keep on rotating the keys. So a lot of small, I mean, all this management activities is kind of handled by Snowflake itself. You just worry about kind of ingesting data into Snowflake, and it will grow infinitely based on your growth, right? So the way you are actually kind of loading data, there is no limit as such. Some of our largest customers have petabytes of data within Snowflake, right? And they have actually started with GBs, and slowly they have grown to TBs and petabytes. So you can, I mean, basically Snowflake data can grow. You don't really have to struggle with kind of data growth and migrations and those kind of things when you bring in data into Snowflake. Also, I mean, you get the way it is actually stored and optimized, you get a lot of benefits like zero copy cloning and time travel and other things. People who are familiar with these technologies or the concepts, you are aware that when we actually store data, we store in a manner that many of these capabilities are enabled for the customers, right? Also, we are obviously, I mean, you will hear in the subsequent session, we do support Apache Iceberg, for example, and which is in private preview, and it will soon go to public preview. So we do support open source as well in case you want to actually kind of store data outside of Snowflake. Again, I mean, just to reiterate, you can load unstructured, structured, semi-structured data into Snowflake. You can do all sort of processing using any language of your choice within Snowflake platform. Coming to the second layer, which was the Elastic Cloud Compute. So it's one single engine for any kind of workload. You see this traditional problem when you actually load data and you have, at the same time, you have different workloads running. So for example, you are ingesting data and you are also kind of reading data out via, I mean, obviously for, let's say, business intelligence reports, or you are running some data science activity on top of it. With Snowflake, you don't really have to worry about any kind of resource contention, right? So once you load data, you can have different computes created for data ingestion, for data, business intelligence workloads or data science, and you will not see any difference in the performance, even though everything is running at the same time, right? So this is one of the key things. Also, when you're bringing in data, whenever you are running anything on Snowflake, that's when you are paying for it. So it's pay per use, right? So when you are actually running a query, when you are actually refreshing that dashboard from your Power BI or any other reporting solution, only when the compute is up in Snowflake, you are actually paying for it. So that way it's very, very different. It comes up instantly, right? So less than a second, the compute will come up, process your data, and then suspend. So we have a capability of auto resume and auto suspend. I'll show that during the demo as well, right? And that happens instantly. No other system solution does that in this manner, the way Snowflake does. Also, as I mentioned, you can run any kind of different language of your choice, right? But the engine is same. We take care of massively parallel processing, right? This particular, whatever language you choose. Let's say you are writing something on Python, we actually distribute that across, right? And obviously we have vertical scaling and horizontal scaling in our platform, which allows us to kind of distribute the workload into multiple computes. These are some of the kind of numbers. So, in July, people running on Snowflake, right? They ran about 3.3 billion queries on Snowflake. The largest table on Snowflake is like 50 trillion rows, right? In 1 minute, the largest number of queries which are running by one customer is 160,000 queries, right? And 177 petabyte data is kind of stored by 5 largest customers of Snowflake, right? So this is the kind of scale we are talking about when we talk about Snowflake as a platform. Snowpark is basically a development library which allows you to actually run any non-SQL programming, right? Or languages. Basically, you can use any of those languages to either build data pipelines, or you are building any sort of machine learning models, any sort of applications. You can use Snowpark. The benefit of using Snowpark over Spark or any such solutions is like you are actually processing or running all this within the Snowflake platform itself, right? So you're not moving the data outside and doing the processing and then writing it back to the Snowflake. But what you're doing is you are actually pushing down the logic directly and executing within Snowflake. There are 2 benefits out of that. One definitely is the performance, because you're not moving data out. You are actually using the benefit of the elastic multi-cluster compute, which I just talked about. And the second is the governance, right? So since you're not moving the data out, everything remains in the secure boundaries of Snowflake, which allows you to actually enable all the different governance capabilities, right, on this particular data set. And your data is not moving out, so it stays in a very secure sandbox. The last layer, the second last layer, which is the cloud services, I already talked about it. So there are a lot of different capabilities, like we do a lot of maintenance tuning, administration, right? All sort of encryption, network capabilities. There are a lot of capabilities which are brought into this, for example, caching, results caching, and those kind of things, which are all handled by our cloud service layer. And the last part, which is SnowGrid, which I talked about, which allows us to actually do data sharing across different cloud and across different regions. This is a zero, in a way. We are not really copying data over using FTP or ETL or APIs, right? So you kind of get rid of all that, and you can actually kind of share data within your organization. Let's say one BU is using, let's say in India, they're using Google Cloud and somebody else is using Azure. You can actually share data across, or you can share the data outside of your organization as well with external parties. And this is all in a very governed fashion. You are actually sharing it. So it's not like you're just sharing it directly without any access control and such things, right? So this is also one of the key capabilities, right? And again, the last slide on my deck, actually, which is governance, which is one of the key things, right? So a lot of these small things which you have to kind of buy and stitch from different vendors, Snowflake actually gives you out of the box, right? So for example, if you look at know your data, finding out where your PII data is, classifying the data, whether it's email number, email ID, phone number, and such things, tagging that data, doing the dynamic data masking, where you are protecting the data, right? Encryption, built-in default, external tokenization, right? All these different capabilities, RBAC control, all these capabilities are kind of inbuilt in the solution, which allows you to kind of keep the data secure and also kind of give you a capability to kind of share this data without any ETL and heavy FTPs and all that in a very privacy preserving manner, right? So these are some of the core capabilities on the data governance side. Now I will move to the demo since we have about, probably about 20 minutes left. So I'll just talk about the demo and I'll show you the user interface and some of the interesting things in Snowflake from the basics point of view, so that which will help you actually kind of understand the subsequent sessions better. So what we do in this session is we have created a kind of demo framework or demo environment, which is publicly available. And after this session, you can actually go and try this out. So we have a fictitious, company which we have created, which we call as Tasty Bites. It's a food truck company. And it is currently based on in 15 countries, about 30 major cities, right? And using this demo setup, which contains some data, some scripts, and some more, kind of scenarios, we will actually explain you and walk through how you can actually utilize Snowflake platforms. It's very good for beginners if they want to learn Snowflake. This is one of the very good assets. If you go to quickstart.snowflake.com, you will find a lot of these demos, which is based on the Tasty Bites demo framework, right? So today, what I will actually show you is introduction to Tasty Bites. And if the time permits, I can maybe show you one more of these if there is enough time for this, right? So I'll just start with introduction to Tasty Bites. And I'll show you how you can actually set up a Snowflake environment, how you can actually create database, create views, schemas, right? How you can create roles, create warehouses and all that in the subsequent session. So if you look at it, I will be using Snowsite, which is our user interface. So let me just switch to Snowsite. There, I will actually run these scripts or create the database and the roles and everything manually using the Snowsite, right? So I'll just give me a minute to kind of switch. Yeah, before I go there, I will just show you this quickstarts.snowflake.com. If you just go to quickstarts.snowflake.com and if you just search for Tasty Bites, and again, this is a public link, so you can actually just search for it and you will find introduction to Tasty Bites. And there are a lot of other Tasty Bites demo as well here, which you can actually try later. So for example, if you want to try out Marketplace, you can actually see collaboration. If you want to see the data governance capabilities of Snowflake, you can click on the data governance one and test it out. If you're interested in finding out how you can parse semi-structured data into Snowflake, you can actually use this one, right? And you can actually see how we can actually natively ingest JSON or XML into Snowflake. And you can actually, by writing some simple SQL, you can actually parse that data out. You don't need any external tools, right, to do that. Similarly, on the cost governance, so geospatial, if you're interested, you can actually test it out. So for today's session, what I will do, I'll just use this Tasty Bites introduction. And this is what I will actually kind of show you and demonstrate, since this is for the basic users. So if you see, all the use case is actually kind of described here. This is just a setup of Tasty Bites demo. And for this, what you will require if you're trying this out yourself, if you click on this link, it will take you to the sign up page where you can actually sign up for Snowflake and you will get a 30 days of free trial account. You can go and sign up this, obviously later after this session, and you can create an account. Once you create an account, you can just follow along this guide. And today I will actually show this, but you can also follow along later since you will have this access to this link where you will see a GitHub link here. If I just click this, it will take me to the GitHub sample, which actually has a script. And this script is doing nothing but just creating databases, creating roles and warehouses and all that. So what you can do is you can just copy this over. And then you can come to your Snowflake environment. So this is how Snowsite user interface looks like, right? For the people who are not very familiar with this, this is how it looks like. Once you log in, when you create an account, there will be nothing here. You can create any worksheet here. So in this case, I will just maybe create a SQL worksheet, and you can rename this worksheet to anything you would like. So for example, if you're just doing a setup, you can just say setup, and you can paste all that, the script here, because this will allow you to actually kind of do a setup, right? So I'll go over this because I've already kind of pasted this here. So I'll actually explain this one by one, right? So Now, let me just go to the script, right? So what I did is I just clicked on this, took this whole script, which allows me to set up the Tasty Bytes demo. And then I have just come here and I'm just going to kind of run this one by one. So if you notice here, in Snowflake, I mean, whenever you are running anything, right, it's always, there is a context, right? So in this case, I'm running this as a system admin, and this is my warehouse. And I'll explain what is warehouse actually in the subsequent lines. But the first thing which I will do is I will actually use a system admin role to create all these databases and all that. So this is what I have done, right? Very simple, similar to any traditional databases, right? The scripts will look very, very similar. The language, we support ANSI SQL, so you'll probably be very familiar with this. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'll just create a database, right? So I'm just creating a Frosty by Tasty Bytes, right? A database. And if you see here, this is where I get to see, I mean, the results. It took like so many milliseconds. If I want to see the details of what was executed, I can just click on this link and it will show me a detailed log for this. So now I have created my database, which is available here on the right-hand side. I will actually go ahead and create some schemas. So basically, I'll create like a couple of schemas here. So I'll create all this, I mean, these 4 schemas. So let me just run this. Okay. So what just happened is like all the schemas are created. So if I just refresh this on the right-hand side, you can see the analytics schema, raw POS, raw customer, and analytics, right? And harmonized. These are all created right now when I just ran this, right? Now, the next thing which I'm going to do is interesting. So what I have done just now is I have just created a database and I've created a couple of schemas under that database. My objective of this particular demo is to set up my database, my schema, and then I will create some tables. I'll take some data from S3 and load into that table, right? And then run some queries on top of it. That is my objective for today's session. But as I said, you can obviously have more detailed, there are some detailed guides and you can just follow along and do some of the other labs, which is there in the quick start. So the next thing which I'm going to do is to create what we call as virtual warehouse, but it's nothing but compute, right? So I'm going to create some computes. What it means is I will create a compute to run all the scripts and do the initial data load, which I'm calling as demo build warehouse. Even though we are calling it warehouse, it's compute, please note. And here I'm actually, as you know, I mean, Snowflake has these t-shirt sizes, right? So here I'm using 3XL, which is a large warehouse for the demo build warehouse. And then I'm creating one for data engineering, which is extra small. And I'm creating one for data science, which is also extra small. If you notice, what I have actually done in this is I have actually kept an auto suspend of 60 seconds. So after a minute, I mean, basically auto resume is true. What it means is when I'm running any query, it will come up and then it will suspend after 60 seconds, right? So this is the beauty of Snowflake's warehouses, where you don't really have to pay for it when you're not running anything. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and create all these warehouses in one shot. So I'll just take all this and I will execute. Now, if you notice here, all these warehouses are getting created. Now I can see on the right-hand side here, Tasty Bytes, BI warehouse, dev warehouse, data engineering warehouse, data science warehouse, all these warehouses were created right away, right? This is one way of doing it. The other way of doing this is you can actually go to admin and you can go to warehouse. And this is also, I mean, what you see here, you can actually create a warehouse from the user interface as well. Although I created from script, it's very simple, very standard way of doing it. So you just say, I want to create a test warehouse here. And then you can choose a t-shirt size. I mean, based on what kind of workload, how fast you want to run it. And later during the session, I will also show you, I mean, how you can actually scale up a warehouse and execute something much more faster. So if I will run a job which will actually load data from S3 into Snowflake, it will take probably 2-3 minutes for extra small. But when you do that with XXL, you can do that in 15 seconds, right? So it's linearly scalable in that sense. So you decide how much compute you want to kind of use and how much time you can actually kind of spend, right, on that job. Again, I mean, auto resume, auto suspend, as I was showing on the script, you can actually decide from here as well. And then we have something called as multi-cluster warehouse, which is horizontal scaling, right? So you can actually set up a warehouse like this, which allows you to kind of do horizontal scaling. So when the workload is lesser, only one warehouse is used, but as it grows, more and more warehouses are spawned, right? And processed. So basically with my script, I just created all this very quickly, directly from the script, right? I can do that from the user interface as well. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'll create some roles. So I'm creating a security admin role. I'm using a security admin role to create some roles. So basically, I'll just go ahead and run all these roles in the interest of time very quickly. So all these roles, I mean, basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a role hierarchy and allowing this user to create tables, create views, create tags, bunch of things, right? So I'll do all that. I'll just execute this very quickly. And now, I mean, currently all this is happening where all these roles and the users are getting created. You can actually see this if you come to this user interface here, and you can actually see this, the roles which are getting created. Let me just refresh this a bit. So you can also see the whole role hierarchy. For example, account admin, security admin, sysadmin, and all these different users and roles which are getting created is all kind of available here. You can deep dive into more details of it, but it's a very intuitive interface which actually kind of shows all this, all the users and roles and all the details right around it. So, I mean, while this is running, obviously, I can also show you. I mean, the data which I'm going to load in the meanwhile. So, okay, so looks like it executed. So I'll go as per the steps. So yeah, so once all these roles are created, obviously, as I said, you can go to the user interface, verify everything. Now what I will do is I will actually go ahead and create a new warehouse. I mean, I'm now using the system admin role, and I'm using a demo build warehouse, which was created earlier. And this is a 3x large warehouse. I will create a file format. So to load data from S3, right, you have to tell to Snowflake that what kind of data format it is. So it's a CSV format. So that's what we are doing here. I'm just kind of telling Snowflake that the format is CSV. You can have JSON or Parquet or any other format. And also you have to create a stage. So since this is a public S3 link, right, you can actually create a stage which allows, which is nothing but a pointer to that S3 location. So once you create this, there is a pointer now to that S3 location, and now you can actually kind of use copy into command to load data into Snowflake. So this is how it works, right? So this is one of the key important steps which you have to follow, where you are creating an external stage which allows you to read data from S3, right? Now, after that, what I will do is I'll just go ahead and create all these different tables. Again, I mean, there is nothing very complex in this. These are just simple DDL statements. And I'll just go ahead and create all these different tables where I will load data from S3. Okay, so all these are created. So now if I refresh on the right-hand side, if I just refresh on the right-hand side, I can actually see some of these tables which should be created. Now, what I will go ahead and do is also create some views on top of these tables. So I'll just go ahead and create all these views. So these views are basically working on those tables. And this is just a standard setup, right, which we are doing. Similar to any traditional views, which you will create in any traditional database. There is no difference as such. Now, coming to the important part, which is the data load part, right? So this is where, let me just show you what is present in that S3 blob, right? S3 location, right? So if you see here, I just did a list on that stage, which I just created. And in that stage, I can see all these different files present, right? The country file, the franchisee, and the location, and the CSV. So this is all the data sets which are present for the Tasty Bytes, right? And basically what Tasty Bytes analytics team is trying to do is actually bring in all this data into Snowflake, create some views, create some model layer, and then do some reporting on top of it, right? So first thing which I'm showing in this demo is basically loading all this data into Snowflake platform, right? So I'm using demo build warehouse. So I'll just run the first one, which is loading the country data. So it's a small data set, about 30 rows, which is all loaded. Similarly, I can load franchisee, location. Let me just load all this in one shot together from here to here. And I'll just execute this. So currently Snowflake is running all this here. Let me just show you some of the user interfaces you will actually use to verify whether the data which you have loaded is properly loaded. Are there any errors or such, right? So you can just click on this link here, which is available. When you click on this link, it will take you to the query history, right? So if you see this section in the activity section, you can see the copy history. So any queries which you are running on Snowflake, let's say you are running a view or you're running a query, all that data is present here. And you can actually click here and see the details of that and what exactly happened, how much data was loaded and such things. And similarly, if you go to the copy history, you can actually see if the data is being copied over from object storage, what is the size of the data, was the load successful, not successful, right? How many rows are there, and all those details here present in this user interface. So you don't have to really struggle for all this information. It's all present, available to you at your fingertips, right? Let me just load this one as well, which is order header. So the key thing which I wanted to show you is basically this part, right? And I'm not going to, so see, if you look at it, the order detail is the table which has got the largest data set, which is 673 million records, about 30 GB or so of data. So I have done this testing before just to show you, if I use extra small warehouse and if I do the processing, right? And if I just copy into this object order detail table, files, it will take about 3 minutes, right? And this is the beauty of Snowflake, right? But in case you want to actually run this faster, what you can do is you can just use XXXL, which is 3x large, right? So you can actually see it from here. So if you use extra small, it will take about 3 minutes. If I just use 3x large, right? Let me just do that. It will be much more faster. It will take about 15 seconds, right? So this is one of the beauties of Snowflake. It's this whole data load. You basically decide. So there is no really, frankly, there's no resource contention. You decide if you're okay to run this for 3 minutes and you want to use extra small, you do that. If you want to run it faster, you can use a larger warehouse like XXXL, and you can do this much more faster, right? So as you can see, I've just loaded, like in 15 seconds, I've loaded 673 million records. And if I just go to this to the copy history again and just refresh this, you can see this, or maybe in the query history as well. Because I just want to show you the size of the data very quickly. And if I just go to the query profile, you can see that this is like about 3.7 GB of data, right? So which was loaded in like 13 seconds, very quickly into Snowflake. So this is the beauty of the linear scalability which Snowflake platform provides. Now we are done with the whole setup, demo. So what I will do is I will actually show you one more, since there is some time left. Probably I'll just use 5 or 7 minutes to actually show you another very interesting one, which is collaboration, right? Again, you can do others later, but I'll just show you this very quickly. So here what we are doing is we are actually taking, so once, as of now, I have all the data, kind of available for me, right? Now we are doing the analytics part, right? So I'm running some queries, doing some analysis. Now, since this is a food truck business, right? Obviously, there are a lot of analysts who are kind of trying to find out, okay, how was the sales in this particular country, this particular city, and all that. So I'll just show you one of that example very quickly. So I'll just use a role of a data engineer, right? I'll just assume that role. So I'm currently using a role of data engineer, and I'm using a warehouse, which is extra small warehouse of tasty D warehouse, right? And I'll run a query to find out in the city of Hamburg, how was the sales, right? During these days in February, right? So in February 2022, between 10 to 28th, how was the sales actually in this particular city, right? So this is the analysis I'm doing. Currently, I'm doing this analysis on my first party data, the data which is present within my organization. I have created it, right, somewhere in some source. I'm just fetching into Snowflake and I'm just running this query. If you see, when you run the query, Snowflake has this data profiling inbuilt into the platform, right? So on the right-hand side, you can see when I ran this query, I can see that during a couple of days in February, right, there was no sales. There was 0 sales, right? And if I can just scroll down and also check this out. So during those days, there was 0 sales. And the objective of this person who is actually doing this analysis is to actually find out what exactly happened there, right, during those days. Why exactly there was no sales during that particular time. So for this, I cannot just rely on my first party data. I have to bring in some data from outside to understand, okay, what exactly, was there any catastrophic event or was there any weather issues, right? So for this particular example, what we are doing is we are actually taking a weather data from marketplace, which is again freely available. So in this case, what I will do is I'll go to the marketplace. So let me just go to the marketplace and search for frostbite. So I will take my first party data combined with third party data, which is available here. And I can show that how quickly I can do that. So this is a weather source data, which has data for all the cities. And basically it has the wind information, the climate and the weather information, right, from all the cities. And I can just click on get, and I can get this data into my, basically I can get access to this data, right? So there is no copy over happening, but I can just take this data and I can say that, okay, name this database as frostbite weather source and get this data, get access to this data, right? So it's a publicly available data, which is available now. If you see in the instant, when I just clicked on that, I got this data and I can just start querying this data already, right? So there is no FTP done, there is no copy done, there is no API challenges. I can just run queries directly on a data which is shared by a third party without actually paying for that storage in my system, right? So it's just available to me here as a third party data. So if I just go to this particular, if I just go to this data set here, and if I just see frostbite weather source, if you see the source of this data is a third party, and this is not currently present in my system, but I can actually query it, right? I cannot just query it. I can just combine with my first party data and do analysis. And that's what precisely I'm going to do. So since now I have the weather data as well, I can run some queries to find out what exactly happened, right, during those days. So I can just create some of these views. Let me just do that quickly. So yeah, so basically my first guess is that, was the temperature very high or was there any issues with the temperature as such? Basically, after running this query where I'm combining the data, my first party data with weather data, I see that temperature was more or less normal. There was no difference as such. Similarly, my next guess is wind speed, right? And I think that is what I will actually kind of find here, that if I notice during those days when there was 0 sales, the wind speed was very, very high, and probably there was a storm conditions, right? And this is something which I can just run a couple of these and maybe just show you the last result. I can create UDFs basically to convert temperatures, from Fahrenheit to Celsius and vice versa and all that. But let me just run this very quickly to show you the final outcome. So here I'm combining my data, which is present, the sales data, which is present as my first party, with the weather data, which has got information on the wind speed and the temperature and the rain and all that. And basically, after running query, I can see that, okay, on those particular days where my sales was actually 0, right? During which my sales was 0, I can see the temperature during those days, the rain during those days, and the wind during those days. And the culprit is the wind, because the wind was like anything beyond 37 or 36 is super high for a food truck to operate in, right? So in this example, what I showed you is, in these 2 examples, what I showed is how you can actually pull in data, your first party data from different systems into Snowflake platform, how easy it is to kind of create those computes, create roles, access, schemas, views, and all those familiar things which you know. And then how easy it is to bring a third-party data, combine with this data, and do analytics on top of it, right? You can, in the Snowflake platform itself, there are a lot of capabilities around dashboarding and all that, which you can actually do, which you can build. So for example, you can do some charting here itself, right? within the platform itself. So I ran that query and I can just see that during these days the sales was 0, right? And you can do some of these dashboarding within the platform itself, or you can use any third-party tools. So with that, I think I am kind of done, unless there are some questions. Farhan, back to you.
Thank you, Pawan. I do see a bunch of questions there. Well, there are a lot of questions that have already been answered. We have an expert panel at hand that are going at it with the questions, but there are a few of these that I'd love to sort of redial on. So there was yeah, there's this one particular question. So there are definitely questions around PII data, sensitive data. Sure. And how do we manage that in the Snowflake environment? So if you could just recap on that a little bit.
Sure. So in Snowflake, as I was mentioning, right? So, I mean, we work on these two layers, like know your data, which is the first step, where you have capabilities like classification, right? So you can automatically classify your data and find out where all your PII data is. At the second level, you have capabilities like row level access control, for example, to actually kind of restrict a particular kind of data being shared at a row level to different people, or you have something like dynamic data masking, which allows you to kind of, if let's say Farhan logs in and he searches for something, he will not be able to see. For him, the email IDs will be masked. But if I am actually searching as a privileged user, I will be able to see those data, right? So some of these capabilities are kind of inbuilt in the platform, right? So as I mentioned, know your data, I mean, basically classification and finding out the PII data, basically tagging of the data, right? Automatically tagging what kind of data is PII, and then applying these masking policies and row level policies directly on those tags. So these are the capabilities which are kind of inbuilt in the platform. We are also obviously coming up with lineage and some of the other capabilities which allows you to kind of see the data flow of the PII data also within the platform. So lineage is something which we are kind of releasing very soon.
Super. And there are a bunch of questions around resource usage, the cost, how can we track it, how can we monitor it, how do we optimize it, if we have multiple users, would it, explode my bills and such? Sure. If you can just work with that aspect. Yeah.
Sure. So I'll just share my screen because this is an interesting one. So, I mean, one thing which you can do is actually, if you want to understand more about this, you can definitely go to this financial governance Tasty Bytes demo, which obviously I couldn't cover in this short time, which will allow you to actually kind of see what all you can do. So for example, you can create a resource monitor, which will alert you if you're reaching your limit, right? You can set certain limits for each of these warehouses, and you can kind of have a resource monitor setup. But let me just show you directly from the Snowsite user interface itself, right? How you will go about this. So if you see, I mean, you can always come here on this. Let me just share my screen. Sorry if I'm not sharing.
It is.
Okay, I've just shared my screen. So yeah, you can always come here in the usage. So we have some inbuilt dashboards for your usage management, right? Where you can come in and see that, okay, how much compute I'm using, how much storage I'm using, right? All these details. You can have tag-based usage, right? Usage reporting. So for example, you can tag that, okay, your engineering group uses these many warehouses. You can actually kind of drill down on the tags as well, right? For your engineering group, for your HR group, for your other business units. You can do that level of reporting as well here. Also, we have come up with something called as budgets, which allows you to control your usage of these warehouses, right? So a number of credits for each of these business units. We will do alerting. If you want, you can even stop the warehouses to kind of work if you want to put restrictions on it, right? So it's a next level beyond resource utilization, which I earlier talked about. So all these capabilities are kind of inbuilt, right, in the platform, which allows you to kind of see how many credits you are using on a historical basis, and also kind of you can actually have proactive ways to kind of stop some of these usages, right? If somebody is kind of overusing than the required, I mean, the budget which is kind of allocated to that particular group. I hope that answered the question. But obviously, it requires a lot of other discussions. I think there is a session as well planned for this later.
Right. Yeah. So please stay tuned with us, everyone. We'll cover this topic and many more topics in a lot more detail We also have a few more questions opened up. I know we are almost going to reach on time, but just a few more questions. Again, this is all basic Snowflake stuff. Get this up and we started with Snowflake. There are a bunch of questions on training and certifications. I'll get to that in a moment. But before that, there's a question from Joseph who asks, about Snowflake compatibility. How does it integrate with the likes of Salesforce, ServiceNow? So what does the connector ecosystem, if I can put it this way, look like at Snowflake?
Sure. So, I mean, the best way to actually kind of look at it, and obviously, I mean, we have connectivity to ServiceNow and Salesforce natively. But if you just search for Snowflake ecosystem, this is the best place to kind of look for a lot of different partners we work with, right? And a lot of different technologies. So this is one very good place to kind of come and look for the tool or technology you are looking for. We have connectivity definitely to ServiceNow and Salesforce both. We have very good partnerships with them, where you can do a buy sync of data from Salesforce, for example. So you can pull in data from Snowflake, from Salesforce to Snowflake and do analytics on top of it. Similarly, you can do that same thing for ServiceNow as well. But as I said, if you want to understand for any other tool technology and how and what kind of support level is available, you can always come here and kind of look at whether the tool you are using, how it works with Snowflake. And in case, I mean, you have some questions, further questions, you can always reach out to us.
Super. And there are tons of questions on CI/CD. Sure. And I'm sure that this is something that stays right in our ballpark. So if you could just walk the audience through a little bit of CI/CD as well. How do we manage it, and how they can run with managing different environments and the CI/CD?
Sure. So as I said, I mean, there are obviously we do support from our side. We are completely open. The best resource I can actually point you to, in case you are using, I mean, whichever tool you are using, for example, if you just go here and search for any of those tools, right? Let's say you are using Azure DevOps, for example, or you're using any other, let's say Terraform, or I mean, you are interested to find out how a particular tool is CI/CD tool, which you have, is kind of supported with Snowflake. This is the best place to come in here and kind of browse and check out. So for example, let's say you want to use Terraform and GitHub with Snowflake. This is the best place. You can come in here and maybe create a trial account and just try out. We have a lot of customers using a variety of different tools. So that's why we are not very particular in naming which tool you should be using. For example, if you want to find out how dbt works with Snowflake, best thing is just come here and search for dbt, and you can see how you can actually make it work. If you're using Airflow, for example, you can use Airflow. If you're using any of those DevOps tools, you can definitely use, I mean, this particular resource, right? This is very useful actually for that particular purpose. So you just follow along and build this on your trial account. And this way you will get a confidence that, okay, this is how it will work with Snowflake.
Super. There are a lot of questions on how do I really get started with Snowflake. I'm very new. I just want to learn the tool. I want to learn how to get started with Snowflake. So what Pawan is sharing right now is essentially what you need. We have a lot of virtual hands-on labs. We have pre-recorded sessions. We also have live webinars that run throughout the year. There would be one happening maybe a few weeks down the line. So quickstarts.snowflake.com is your friend. There are lots and lots of resources over here. If you want to know about governance, I saw a few topics on governance. What does Snowflake do on that front? And there were questions on machine learning and such. All of that information. If you want to learn how does Snowflake work in any of these areas, just go to quickstarts.snowflake.com. It's your friend. Browse for free trials. Browse for virtual hands-on labs, and there are quick starts as well that you can follow through. And that'll make it a lot more easier for you. If in case you have any questions, you can reach out to Pawan, you can reach out to any of the team that is answering your questions on the Q&A panel, or you can reach out to me and we'll connect you to that resource and we'll get all of your questions answered. I know we are almost at the top of the hour. Before we sort of drop off, I would first like to extend my thanks to Pawan, who's been a tremendous presenter, taking all of these questions very patiently, and then also walking the audience through the zero to Snowflake bit. So thank you so much, Pawan. I think with the questions we had on this session, people really understood and enjoyed the session. And yes, for those of you asking, will the resources be available? Yes, the session is being recorded. We'll send it out to you in a couple of weeks' time. Next week is Diwali, so celebrate Diwali with us. And we'll send out to you all of these resources. The recording will be available, the presentation decks as well. It's there on YouTube as well, so we'll make sure we get that link to you too. With that said, I just want to quickly bring up my screen and remind everyone that this is also something that happened, right? So there were a lot of announcements at Snowday. So if you are interested in learning more or just watching the recording of our SVP of product, Christian Kleinerman, who walked through all of these announcements, really cool things that happened at Snowday, just scan this QR code. We'll drop it in. We'll drop the link in the chat as well. We'll broadcast it to all of you. So make sure that you watch Snowday. We are doing another event. It's a virtual event. Once again, we are going to focus on lots of hands-on labs. We are going to focus on how do we make things work. So we'll showcase with a lot of demos. Once again, this is a virtual event happening on 5th and 6th of December. So make sure that you join us. And finally, just reiterating what I said earlier, quickstarts.snowflake.com is your friend. If you want to join the community, you can go to community.snowflake.com and browse for your local chapters. We have a very strong user group community in Delhi, Bangalore, and Pune. We are going to be meeting in December. So if you find yourself in any of these cities and would like to meet up with us in person and learn and network and just brainstorm some ideas, become a part of the Snowflake India community. We are there in 3 locations right now, but we plan on expanding very, very soon. And finally, a lot of questions were on certifications and trainings. Learn.snowflake.com and training.snowflake.com. So quick starts, community, learn, and training. Those are the resources. Those are your friends. I'll just quickly stop sharing my screen. And now what we're going to do is we'll take a quick break. Just go ahead, grab yourself a glass of water. We are back with the next session, which is on Snowpark setup and data engineering. We have Sachin, again, who is from our sales engineering team, and he's going to walk you through data engineering and Snowpark setup. We're going to see you in another minute. So just stay tuned with us. We'll be back shortly.
Welcome to Data Cloud World Tour. Welcome to the world of data, AI, and apps. It is important that you recognize that it is the data that powers AI. And our goal at Snowflake is to help you build this data strategy, which will in turn enable your AI strategy.
Now just imagine the possibilities. You can now build amazing applications, modern applications that today run on containers, and they are data applications or data products. You could just start running them inside Snowflake, once again, right next to the data that they are expected to process and deliver back to the consumers.
We are having a lot of consumer data. That data can be monetized. Snowflake Marketplace gives us that kind of environment where we can create trends out of it. That kind of data monetization journey on which we are working. So we have chosen Snowflake for that kind of thing.
So we have a strong practice around cloud data analytics and Snowflake. Globally, we are recognized as one of the leaders in this space.
Here, actual magic is happening.
All the heavy lifting on orchestration and incrementalization is done by Snowflake.
It's provided one to protect data from each customer to each customer, from you guys to us so that we don't look at your data, from your data to the outside world.
With Snowflake, the cost of this has significantly reduced over a period of time.
India is the second largest geography after the US in terms of Snowflake practitioners. So a lot of valuable information is out there. We believe that data-driven decision-making is everybody's game within the organization.
So with that, we'd like to bring Data Cloud World Tour in Delhi to a close, but we're not done yet. We will be in Bangalore and in Mumbai on 15th of September and 12th of October. So if you find yourself there, come say hi. See you soon.